Hi, welcome back to season 4 of the Tummy Team Journey. I am Kelly Dean, physical therapist and founder of the Tummy Team, and I'm your host. This is the podcast where we talk about how investing in your functional core and pelvic floor strength can actually change your life. So let's get started. Hi, everybody. Welcome. I'm Kelly Dean, and this is our first episode of season 4. And I wanted to introduce you guys to Miranda. This is Miranda Anderson, and she is my online clinical director. I was trying to think of how we could give her a title because we are basically partners in this. She helps me with everything Tummy Team related. And if you guys are emailing us, you're often talking to Miranda as well as me, or one or both of us. And so I wanted to introduce you to Miranda. Hi, Miranda.
Hi.
Miranda and I were talking about this new season, and because we took a little break in the Tummy Team Journey podcast, we thought it would be kind of cool to kind of do a Netflix recap type thing, like this first episode of if you haven't been listening to the Tummy Team Journey before and you're just joining us now, or you haven't been listening for a while and you want a little bit of a recap, we're going to kind of do a little bit of a recap because this podcast is talking about people's journey through functional core and pelvic floor rehab. And we thought it'd be cool to talk about the Tummy Team's specific journey, like the journey of the Tummy Team, because I think a lot of times people think, oh, you have this business and this was your plan and this is how you wanted it to be. But it's been very different than that. And I think learning about the journey of the Tummy Team helps everybody understand that we're all on a journey. So that's what today's podcast is going to be about. And I think it'll be great. All right. So Miranda has been working with me. How many years has it been?
Well, I started working for you 2020, like late
For
summer 2020. So we're going on like 4.5 years.
4.5 years,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. So she's been with me for 4.5 years. And so, I think that one of the things that is really cool and about this podcast and this episode is that Miranda knows some of the story of the beginning, but she really knows the last 4.5 years. But there is a lot before that, right?
Yeah.
What do you what do you think? Where should we start? Where do you think we should start?
Yeah. So I think ultimately, like, tell everyone where the tummy team started. Did you have this vision of where we are today, or did it start out differently? Like, what happened first?
Okay, so I never had this vision. So I was, I was initially as a physical therapy student and as a physical therapist in my early part of my career, I was passionate about brain injury and stroke rehab. Okay, I was a neuromuscular rehab specialist, so I worked in rehab hospitals and in hospitals and in outpatient settings as well but that were connected to hospitals as well as home health. And I worked a lot with older people that had sometimes younger people that had a brain injury. I did work a little bit in the NICU because neonatal care is sometimes like a brain injury if the babies had some kind of oxygen deprivation during birth. So I did some kid stuff, but most of it was older people, and it was very different. So in that expertise, I didn't really think about having my own outpatient clinic or my own
Right.
clinic. Um, but what really happened was I started having my own kids, and I thought that I would be one of those people that could just get pregnant and easily and pop a baby out and bounce back and do all that stuff, right? I thought that that's what would just happen for me because I was an athlete and I was really strong and I had a lot of self-awareness, and you don't know what you don't know. you don't know how complicated pregnancy and birth can be and fertility. And I had no idea I was going to have so many fertility struggles and I was going to have such a difficult time in birth. And, things were weird. And having my own kids, my own belly kind of blew apart and there was nobody that could help me. And so I was a little bit lost. We hear that story all the time, right? People are like, "Oh, I thought it'd be easy."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And easy to recover, easy to just, like, keep having more babies, and then their body falls apart, like, after the 1st or 2nd baby, and then it's life-changing, and they don't know where to go from there.
Yeah. And our culture kind of gives us, well, there's two extremes. Well, that's what happens, just deal with it. Or, what's wrong with you? Like you should be able to just bounce back. And I think that we need to be someplace in the middle. I went on a journey to figure out how to heal my own core. And part of that was involving my girlfriends in it. And my girlfriends were like, "Oh, I think I have that problem too." I started realizing a lot of my friends had. I started realizing that I had a diastasis first, that was diagnosed because nobody really knew what was going on. It was just, and it was all of your symptoms are like so kind of elusive. Like, I just can't hold myself up. My back hurts all the time. I'm wetting my pants. My belly looks perpetually pregnant. Like what is happening? I have no energy. I have no emotional capacity. My GI tract's all messed up. There are all these like inconvenient things, right? That we can kind of, if you have one or two of them, you can kind of like, just power through it and live with it. But when you start getting more and more and more of those things, it starts getting really hard to figure out. And so when I figured out that I had a diastasis, I started talking about it, and my friends are like, check me for a diastasis. And so I started checking my friends, and they all had a diastasis. And then I was part of a big moms group, and I talked a little bit about diastasis and like I was like what I was trying to figure out on how to heal myself. And I went on to check like 45 people in the room, and 44 of them had a diastasis. Um, and so as I started as a PT and on my own journey figuring things out, people were like, help me too, help me too. So I just started helping my friends. And one of my best friends at the time said, it's like you have a little tummy team.
Yeah.
Right? And then I was like, "Oh, it kinda is." But at first I wasn't charging anybody. I was
Right.
like, I was still working it
You wanted to help
myself.
yourself and your
Yeah,
friends. Yeah.
yeah. I was just helping people and talking about it and on my journey myself, figuring things out as I went. Um, yeah, and I still it took me a long time. I would say it took me maybe a year to even start thinking that this was something I would do as a physical therapist. Isn't that kind of a weird
Yeah.
thought?
Yeah. Right. Like, so how did you get to the point of knowing, A, I wanna do this as a physical therapist, but B, I wanna have my own clinic?
Huh. I don't think I ever said I wanted to have my own clinic. That kinda happened, to me, but what happened was I started because I was doing home health part-time. I My kids were little. I naturally would just I started doing like some tummy team classes. I don't even know if I called it the tummy team yet, but I was doing like some diastasis classes like at my church and in small groups and with groups of friends. They would get people together and I would go to their home and teach them all the stuff that I was learning. And then I started kind of organizing it a little bit more. And then it was easy for me just to go to people's homes because I was already doing that for home health. Um, but
Mm,
then people started hearing about me from friends that weren't friends of mine, and they were like, I can pay you to do this." And my girlfriends are like, "You could charge for this. You are a physical therapist, and you are making a house call, and you can." So then I was like, "Oh, how would I charge for this?" And so then I started like kind of charging a little bit, and then I met this one client that was moving, and she's like, I have friends that own this mother baby wellness center, and they have like a little room that they use for massage therapists. And they said we could use that room, we could meet there for our sessions. So I went there to meet her for this session, and the owners are like, you know, you could just rent this space and people could come to you. What a novel concept. People could come to me. You could just rent this room and people could come to me. At this point, I think I started calling it the tummy team. I had like a little business, like a LLC. It was still just word of mouth. And I would speak at different moms groups or different hospital groups, just educating people. And it was mostly prenatal and postpartum at the time. And so people started coming to me, and I was still running everything, like scheduling and taking the money and you know, doing all of this stuff. And it quickly kind of started to grow past that.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't schedule for myself. Like, people would have to wait to get me on the phone to schedule, but I'm with clients the whole time.
Yeah.
So,
So then how did you grow from, like, you being one person in someone else's building or space to when I met you, it was you in your own space with massage therapists and other PTs and chiropractors and kind of this like really cool collaborative wellness space. So
yeah.
what was that transition like?
So, the first thing I think that really changed direction of everything is I got an assistant who was very business minded, and she started helping me. She would take payments at booking. She got me on a scheduling system. She just helped me organize it and help. I'm really bad at taking money from people. Um, I have a hard time doing that, especially when somebody is sharing their life story and I'm like, and I'm helping them and I'm really care about their story. And then I was like, and now you need to pay me. It
Yeah.
just feels it needs to be separate, a separate thing. And so she really helped me think in terms of that. And that assistant was named Yolanda. She was awesome. And she just helped me think more like a business person, or she was my business person brain, and helped me believe in myself a little bit more. And she got me connected to Jillian, who was a client and also a PT. And Jillian had a really cool birth story. You guys have heard her story. I have an episode with Jillian, maybe two episodes with Jillian on our past episodes. But Jillian came and worked, decided to start working for me. And so then we were renting two rooms. And then I had a friend who was a massage therapist, was like, also renting a room. So we're renting like this whole space at this birth center. Like, we're taking over all their space. And ultimately the rent was more than what I could have for my own space. So and it was not close to where my kids live, because at this point I think I had quit my home health job and I was all in with the tummy team. But it's so scary to like own your own space, or either rent your own space. Like, now it's like super real. But I did it. It was super scary, but I got this small little space that had two rooms, and but both me and Jillian worked kind of part-time because we had little kids still. And then a chiropractor came and said, "Hey, I would like to rent one of your rooms part-time." And then our massage therapist came and said, "I actually have more than one therapist and I'd like to rent more rooms." So we just expanded our space into the next space and we grew. And they were all independent people, right? Like,
Mhm.
I was the tummy team and I had my therapist, and they were their own chiropractor and their own massage therapist. And then at one point we actually had a counselor in there. Um, Lots of different things. And we really just wanted a space where people got help. At this point though, it had started to shift. Even though we saw a lot of prenatal and postpartum, we now started seeing those people's moms or
Mhm.
those people's husbands.
Yeah.
Um, and then doctors started hearing about us, and then we started seeing a whole nother, you know, group of people that had core and pelvic floor stuff going on that were not just prenatal and postpartum. And that was a really interesting transition.
Yeah. And so, even on top of all of that, we had this cool collaborative space with all these different therapists. You were also recording a lot of online courses at the same time. So, how did that happen? Like it seems like you just keep getting like bigger and
Sucked
bigger and
in.
bigger. Yeah.
Well, okay, so this is funny because it's so interesting how people can see things from the outside that you can't see. So when I was at that wellness center, they would recognize that I'm saying the same things over and over and over again to every patient. Not like textbook, but like um everybody needs the same amount of education,
Yeah.
like to understand like what is the anatomy of their abdominals, what is a diastasis, what is going on, like just understanding. And I would say that every single time with every single patient. And they said, what if you recorded that information and had them watch it before they came, gave them the background education, because as the day would go on, I would get tired, and those last people in the day would get a much shorter version of the anatomy of the adrenals because I was
Yeah,
losing
totally.
steam, right? And they're like, "What if you recorded that ahead of time and they watched it?" And so that was like a major time saver, and I
Yeah.
could do more in the like time with my patient if I didn't have to do all the education. It also helped them be really prepared coming in. So I just started recording that education, and then I started having some clients where that would say, "Hey, my sister lives in Alaska. Could you
Mhm.
could she just do like a video call with you, and talk to you you know on a computer, and you could tell her some stuff." And so they would watch those videos, and then I would go over some stuff on the computer and do like an e-session. um just like, I would realize I could talk them through a lot of the stuff,
Yeah.
which then made me feel like, okay, well, there is like a systematic approach that I do this the first time I see them, then I kind of do some of this the second time, and maybe I do this the third time, and then this the fourth time. And I could kind of there was like a an organic kind of trajectory that most people went through with a couple of bumps and curves. And so I was like, well, I could just record this and take them through that. And then because I was getting to the point where I couldn't see all the people and I didn't want to work more hours,
Yeah.
because my family life balance was important. And so then I started recording them. And and by the time COVID came along, I would say I was we were 50%, a bit 50% of our business was online,
Yeah.
because I had developed multiple courses. And then once I developed courses, I started seeing people, working with people all around the world, right? Like in Australia and in England and, all over the place. And so then it was like, oh, I need to do the prenatal course. And oh, now I need to do a men's course. And now I need to do uh like a trauma informed course, or a C-section course, or like there was like all these like things that I was like, okay, well, I wanted to provide these resources to people that just didn't have somebody like the tummy team near them.
Yeah.
And so we started doing that.
Yeah, I think when I started with you, we maybe only had, like, core foundations for men, floor of your core, prenatal core training, and,
Maybe a C-section.
C-section course, and now we're at, like, 17 courses.
Yes.
Um, but as you're talking, a really great point came up, a question that I get a lot from clients, which is, "How am I gonna how am I gonna do physical therapy with someone who can't touch me, who can't assess my body with their hands? Like, what's your response to that?
Yeah, and as a physical therapist, I wasn't sure I could do that either, right? But what started how it started was something was better than nothing for this
Yeah.
person that was in Alaska, right? Like,
Mhm.
the education, like, the things that we could figure out was so much better than the nothing that she had, right?
Yeah,
And so then as I started working with people online, I started showing them how to check their own DR, how to put their hands on their belly to feel this and feel that. I got really good at explaining and showing and giving them like visual imagery that
mhm,
helped them figure it out.
yeah,
And as I was working with so many people in the clinic, I can kind of anticipate, like, oh, when they do that with their shoulder, I know that they're holding their breath. Or
mm,
when they feel it here in their hip, oh, they're not sitting properly and they don't have enough back support, you know?
yeah,
So
yeah,
because I have seen so many clients go through this same process, when they tell me, "Oh, I have this," and I see them, I can look at their alignment, I know what's going on. And then
yeah,
I just translated that into the online courses. I started realizing, okay, at the second appointment, in my clinic, most
yeah,
people would say, I feel so much here, but I'm also now dealing with this or dealing with this or dealing with this. So then I would kind of like anticipate that in my videos. Say, okay, we're at week 2. This is what you're most likely feeling. You
yeah,
might be feeling this, you might be feeling this, you might be feeling this. If you're feeling this, this is what we need to adjust. Because I did it so much and I've done it so much, I anticipate what 99% of the people are going to be saying
yeah,
and help guide them. And what I found is actually online, in some ways, I feel like for this work is better than in person, which is, I never would have thought that.
yeah,
But because they are really taking ownership. They're not relying on me to do it for them. They are feeling it. They are figuring it out, and we videotape our session, so they have that. But in the videos, they can rewatch it. They can go, "Oh, I think I got it." They can work on it for a week, and then they can watch the video again, and they get something completely new out of it because now they're at another level.
yeah,
So, in some ways, I learn that people learn in a lot of different ways, right? They learn visually, they sometimes need to repeat it, they sometimes need to feel it in their own body. They need, to hear it. There's a lot of different things. So it's been wildly successful
yeah,
online.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, earlier we talked about how right before COVID, we were kind of like 50-50 online versus in-person clinic, and
Mhm.
people might know now that we've transitioned to completely online. How did that transition happen?
Well, well, in some ways, like, we were set up perfectly for how what happened during COVID.
Yeah,
I know a lot of other companies were trying to figure out how to see people online and all of that. We had everything already set up. So it was a very organic transition for me to start seeing the people that were in my clinic, um, doing virtual sessions, e-sessions with them, or transitioning them into an online program. And then there were so many people around the world that could not get care and saw that we already had this really well established, clinically proven approach that was already set up for them. So it was a very organic thing. And I was possibly busier during COVID, personally,
yeah,
than I was before. I was also at the point in my life that I had maybe 2 more years on the lease of our clinic, and my kids were getting to the point where they're starting to graduate from high school or getting close to that, and I had already in my head thought I was going to transition to mostly online and teaching other professionals, like moving more into a consultation and trying to expand this knowledge because it shouldn't just be at the tummy team. all physical therapists, chiropractors, doulas, midwives should really be able to have this information, and I wanted to spread it that way. So I, in my mind, in my own, like, professional journey, saw myself going that way, and this was just, like, to shut everything down at the clinic and then to build it all back up just to shut it down a year later didn't really make sense. So I just took that momentum and just shifted us online. And it was painful for some of our clients and for our community that was so used to seeing us in person.
Mhm.
Um, and I think after COVID, so many people were like, I am sick of online. I want to see people in person, which I totally get. But for us and for me, I just felt like it was the right way. We started seeing so many people in so many areas that it didn't make sense for me to just have it just in my one clinic. And there's a lot of people in our neighborhood that do this work now because they've
Yeah.
trained with us or
Mhm.
we've connected with them. So I feel like the the in-person community is being served in our world,
Yeah,
at least here.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. Um, so it's that's been kinda interesting. So this kinda you started with me when, COVID happened because Miranda was initially a massage therapist at my clinic.
Yep.
That's a big part of her background. She's got a very robust background of skill set. Um, but you, had your daughter and you were homeschooling and you couldn't be a massage therapist, and you transitioned into kind of my assistant role, my online assistant role, doing like helping with all our social media, helping with all the tech support for our clients and the customer service stuff. And so, you've been with me kind of when we moved completely into online and the bumps of that.
Yeah.
Um, but then we also started to change how we did online, right?
Yeah. It in a big way.
In a big
And
way.
yeah. So why did that transition happen? Like, why did we go from selling online courses, right, at, whatever they cost back then, maybe 150, $200 for an online course, to now where we have solely a membership platform where people can access their courses.
Well, we went through several different things because as we started doing online, exclusively online, we started to see what are the obstacles. Money is one thing,
Mhm.
um, time is another thing, access, and maybe not quite knowing which people are complex. They don't just have one thing going on. And
Yeah,
so when we have multiple courses, we would see people saying, okay, well, you have the prenatal and the postpartum. I'm just going to do the postpartum because I need to pick which one is going to make the most sense. Or they have the pelvic floor and they have the core. Pelvic floor is way more annoying. I'm going to do the pelvic floor when they really needed to do the core first.
yeah,
And I, as a physical therapist, I want them to get everything they need. I don't want them to pick and choose and just look, oh, I like fitness, so I'm going to do the fitness one when they need the rehab to do the fitness well. And it
yeah,
was kind of killing me a little bit. So we then progressed to like, okay, let's put everything into collections, where they would get all of their courses and we could give them a payment plan and they could have a whole year to do it. And that just felt like a big step. People had to really commit to that, and it
yeah,
felt scary because we all know I want to do something, I want to invest in it, but I know myself and I got a busy year coming up and I'm not sure if I'll do all this stuff. And I also want to pay for my daughter's gymnastics class and we want to go to Hawaii. And like I'll put my stuff on the back burner.
yeah,
Um, and so we just kind of started I started really thinking about the customer experience. and wanting, what do I really want? I want these people to get all the resources they need and do it, even though there's an ideal way to do it, like, week by week, like there's an ideal way to do it, but going back to the beginning, something is better than nothing.
Yeah.
And I just want people to feel better. I'm so sad when I hear people's stories of how long they've been dealing with something, how long they've been working on things. And so I wanted to remove as many obstacles as possible and give people, opportunities to just get on the train.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so we tried a lot of different things, and people that have been with us the last few years was like, "Oh my gosh, how many different ways are you gonna change the tummy team?" Know that it's because we are trying to we are trying to evolve in a way that meets the needs in the best possible way. And I know that it's been a lot of changes, way more than you would expect from a small business, but I feel like we have landed right where we need to be, you
Yeah.
know?
I think for a while, because we know the path that typically works the best for people, we try to micromanage their journey a little bit and say, "Okay, you need to start with this course, and then you can do this course, and then you can transition into fitness." And sometimes people just need at now, they can just get the membership and they can start where they think they need to start and then realize, "Okay, now maybe I need to adjust," and give them the autonomy and freedom over their own healing journey rather than feeling like this is the path that I was given.
Right. A lot of times they picked the path that I wanted them to go on, but they
Yeah.
had the choice to do.
Yeah,
We are
totally.
we are creatures of independence, and we don't like to be told what to do.
Yeah,
I also, initially I wanted, because it's physical therapy, I wanted them to do it in a specific timeline I want them to get results. So
yeah,
I just tried to control a lot of things with the heart behind getting them the results. And a lot of people would say that was so helpful for me. I was frustrated, but so grateful that you didn't let me go too fast or you didn't let me go too slow, because
yeah.
that's what I needed. But we also got lots of people going, I've got 3 kids under the age of 5. I might need a slower journey?
Or they experience some sort of family emergency and they need to take a break from it and be able to come back. And so this kind of eliminates all those emails that we would get saying, "Can you extend my access for another month or another
Yeah.
2 months?" This gives them like they can pause their membership, they can, keep paying and do it little by little. They totally have the freedom to go as fast or as slow as they need to for their personal life.
And the other cool thing that we started was the Tummy Team family membership, um which the other big feedback we got from people was that investing in the course, not just financially, but emotionally and time wise,
Yeah.
commitment wise, felt like a big thing. So, but usually when somebody would talk to me, they would always be like, "Oh, I can do that."
Yeah.
So we're like, okay, I can't be the bottleneck where everybody has to talk to me to know that they can do it. So we created a lot of mini series, like small, bite-sized, week-long series where they actually get to hear from me. Like I can tell them some things. Maybe if we could just change their posture and address how they're breathing, that's enough that they could do to make a big difference. So we started these small little series to help people kind of get started. And then we also realized those small series are good for people that have done rehab but want to stay in our community, but just want access to the stretches or this exercise, or want a reminder on the breath stuff, or want a reminder for the parenting posture stuff. And so we created two directions for people. There's actually three. There's a free, where you get some free content. Then there's the $15 a month where you get access to I think we have 55 different series
Yeah.
that are just those small ones that they could do kind of a la carte, like they're getting appetizers. But when
Yep.
they're ready for the full meal and they want the week by week tried and true like rehab path, then they can do the family plus. And in the family plus, they don't have to decide, do I want to do floor of your core or core foundations? Because the family plus gives them like access to every course,
Mhm.
every course.
Every single course, which
And
is
it's
great.
$45 a month. And they can
Yeah.
cancel anytime.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
and it's hard because I'm a terrible salesperson. Like, I don't like taking people's money. I do need to, pay for the business. And we had to get to the point where, okay, what is the amount that is worthwhile, but people can get in and get started and see what they need to do, and they can pause if they need to, they can move on to the next class if they need to, they can kind of go through the whole journey from if they're pregnant from prenatal all the way to postpartum to fitness to everything. And then if they get pregnant again, they can do prenatal again,
Yeah.
you know?
But the beauty of it is once they have the knowledge, they really don't need to do it again. It's there for
Mhm.
them if they need the refresher, if they wanna look over some things again, but we're not prescribing a certain amount of exercises every week, right? We're giving people lifestyle tools to implement every day so they can be strong and stay strong, so that really when they meet their goals, they can cancel their membership and have the tools in their back pocket to use when they need them.
And if they want to stay, if they like the encouragement and support of the community of the tummy team, they can just go into that $15 a month. We have
Yeah,
a lot of fitness stuff in there, our meaningful movement stuff in there. We have they'll get little messages from us just to keep them in that lifestyle.
yeah,
And I feel like that's where we're excited to be. I mean, I still see people online. I do online sessions with clients. And that's super fun, but most of our clients do the online courses and are
yeah,
successful there. And, it's a reasonable amount of money. Like, you were
yeah.
just telling me about a client that was reaching out from Canada. What that was Tell us a
Yeah,
little bit about.
yeah,
Yeah.
so we had a client that reached out, and he really wanted to make sure that he could cancel at any time. And I was like, "Absolutely, you can cancel at any time." But his other question was like, "Well, I'm in Canada, so the exchange rate makes it a little bit more expensive for me, makes it maybe like 65 instead of 45." Um, and while, yes, that might seem a little bit steep for a subscription that you're paying for every month, the goal is for you to get better, right? So you can complete your rehab program within 6 to 8 weeks if you really want to, if you have the capacity to do that. Um, and if you feel like you have the tools that you need, then you can cancel your membership when you're done with that rehab plan. And essentially, you've paid for maybe the cost of 4 PT sessions if you have a decent copay, like $40 for to see a specialist. And you're getting more like 6 to 8, sessions with a PT over the course of your rehab path. Um, so we've
And a
tried to make
specialist, like, this
and
is
a
what,
specialist, right.
like,
Yeah, this is not just a PT that specializes in ACL injuries trying to treat your core, right? Like, this is someone who's specialized in functional core and pelvic floor, and you're gonna get the help you really need. So we've really tried to make it as affordable as possible and as accessible as possible to people all over the world, not just here in the US.
yeah. And that makes me super happy because that's
Yeah.
my heart, right?
Yeah,
My body was falling apart and there wasn't really a lot of information out there. The information was very confusing, very overwhelming, very absolute. I feel like our approach is based on people's real life, and it's completely sustainable, doable, and there's a lot of grace in it.
yeah,
And I feel like because I am constantly training professionals and I'm constantly adding to our courses and looking at the research and updating my own skills and knowledge base, that you don't have to worry that, oh, I what about this? What about that? I am giving you that information as soon as it's out there.
Yeah,
You don't have to, like, try a bunch of different things. Like, I have kind of done that work for you and pulled it all into this space. Um, and it's pretty cool because I do, like, one of the other things that I do now is I teach. I teach at a midwifery college. I teach midwives going through school, which is super exciting because they're going out into the workforce already empowered with this prenatal core education and how to help people push better and help with postpartum parenting postures and diastasis, how to check for diastasis prenatally and treat it, how to prevent it, how to deal with pelvic floor stuff. Like, these midwives are like so empowered. It's super exciting, but it also helps me, like, I am, because I'm teaching at a college, I am keeping that information as relevant and as, state of the art as possible. And then I also do trainings, kind of back to my roots as working with seniors, that I train, physical therapists and occupational therapists that work in skilled nursing facilities and with elderly senior citizens, very debilitated people in skilled nursing facilities on functional core and pelvic floor. And I am constantly keeping it relevant, looking at the new research and bringing that all back. And I bring all that information back into the tummy
that's
team,
exciting.
right?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think
So,
something that's so great
yeah,
about that process is, some people have been in their field for so long and they feel like they are the specialist or the expert in that field, and they can get stuck in like, well, I do it this way and I continue to do it this way because this way works. And yes, while we have like clinically proven courses because we know that it works, you are constantly learning more and
yeah,
doing more research to see, like, just because it works doesn't mean we can't do it better, right?
right.
Or more effectively or faster.
Yeah,
Or for seniors who don't have the cognitive ability to sit up and do a belly breath and be able to connect in that way, we have other ways that, they can
yeah,
do this work. And so I love that, because I think a lot of seniors specifically, they get to a certain age and they think this is just inevitable. I'm just going to wet my pants now. I'm just going to be in pain all the time. I have to give up on some of life's joys because I can't sit on the bleachers for a half hour or an
yeah,
hour and watch my grandkid play soccer.
yeah.
So the amount of like, I don't know, just the amount of passion that you put into it so that this field can help everybody, not just postpartum moms, is really special.
Yeah, that's like what's interesting now is I would say probably the smallest percentage of people I see are prenatal and postpartum women,
Yeah.
you know? And not because I'm not passionate about it, I'm still passionate about it, but I think that over the last decade, there's been a lot of people that are passionate about it. So there's maybe some more resources for that demographic. But what's interesting is I see a ton of men, a ton of
Mhm.
people that have kids with diastasis, and a lot of seniors, a lot of people over 50, 60 years old,
Yeah.
70s and their 80s. And I think maybe those populations have been a little bit neglected in this area, and I'm open to working with everybody with a core and pelvic floor, right? And also recognizing there's some unique differences when you're working with a 2-year-old versus an 80-year-old man
Yeah.
versus, maybe a 25-year-old weightlifting man,
Yeah.
like it's fun for me to accept those challenges and to recognize that, there just because people don't know how to do it yet doesn't mean we can't figure it out.
Yeah.
And I feel like our body has just this incredible capacity to heal, and I want to give people those resources. And, you know, if I were to look, it's so interesting to look back at the beginning that I was like, this, I had no idea like how this, I always kind of say it was like a snowball rolling down a mountain, getting bigger and hitting this bump, going this direction, dodging that tree, going this way, and it gets bigger and bigger, and it's kind of out of control, growing out of control. Um, and it kind of felt like that in the journey, but in hindsight, the reality is the passion is the same from the beginning as it is now. I believe that the body has this capacity to heal. I'm not willing to settle for you just have to live with it. And as soon as I learn something, I want to share it with as many people as possible. And that's been the journey all along, right? That's what we
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. So, if someone knows they need to start this journey, to healing their core or their pelvic floor, where do they start?
Well, I would say, you're going to know yourself. So you might be one of those people that needs to listen to a couple more podcasts to hear more people's stories, not just me and you talking, but look through our podcast and like look for people that have similar stories to you. If you're a man, look for the men in our podcast. If you're prenatal, look at the prenatal and postpartum podcast. So you might be somebody that just needs to hear a couple more stories. Totally fine. I get that. I kind of like to do the research. But then go to the tummy team, thetummyteam.com. You can be a free member and you can start watching some videos with me that start to just do some gentle education.
Yeah.
That education helps you kind of learn how I teach and gives you it's always different than what you think it's going to be. It's not as hard as you think it's going to be, but it does take some focus and some intentionality, but simple things will add up. So go ahead and try that out. But then I say, $15 a month, you could cancel after a month. Try the family membership and I would say, start with the owner's manual for your body,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, because this is the only car you get to drive your whole life. Your body is the only car you get to drive your whole life. You should know how to adjust the seat. You should know how to adjust the mirrors, put the gas in it. You should know how to do some of the basic maintenance to your body. And that's what that owner's manual one, it's a good place to start. It helps you think about things a little bit differently. And even though it does talk about core and pelvic floor rehab in it, it does it in a very practical way. And I think that gives you a really great starting point to know kind of like how we're going to teach you to heal your core.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I think this was good. I think this is a good recap.
I think so. I think you
We
did a
had
great
talked we talked ahead of time. We said, we have so many client um case studies that we could share, but it's hard because some of those clients might be listening and we want to make sure that we could share your story, but we'd rather you share your story. So if
job.
you are listening to this and you have a tummy team journey story, reach out to us. We want to hear your story. You could be on the podcast. You could tell people, what happened on your journey. Everybody's journey is a little bit different, and we learn from each other. We love this community. I feel like one of the things that is in my kind of DNA is to create community connections and impact through authenticity and truth. Those are the things that I'm passionate about. And so I bring that into the tummy team, and I'd love for you guys to be a part of that. So thanks for being a part of it, Miranda.
Yeah, of course. Anytime.
I'm sure you guys are going to see Miranda more because we'll probably do other podcasts. But this has been fun for you guys to get to see her and know who you're talking to, because you're not always talking to me because I can't be everywhere all the time. Miranda can't either, but together we can do quite a bit, right?
Yep.
All right. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. And we'll see you next time. Once again, thank you for joining us at the Tummy Team Journey. We would love to help you restore your core and be strong for the life you were meant to live. You can get more practical strategies at thetummyteam.com, and we'll see you next time.